Welcome to the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game by talking through and dissecting game film and diving deeper to explain why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by Mr. Johnny Dell, and we are reminding you, as always, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube, where we go live. There you can comment into the live show. Be sure to hit the notification bell and turn on your notifications so you can be a part of the conversation. We also stream live on Facebook and X. Also, the audio versions are always found on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you are live with us in the chat, it's probably because you are subscribed, you've hit the notification bell, and turned those notifications on. So, when sharing with your friends, be sure to let them know. We also love to hear from you outside of our live show. Email us at johnnydellsfootballacademy@gmail.com, and you can always check out the website jfa49.com, as it is the most fun way to support the channel. Also, the way we boost the chat and boost the algorithm is to type out hashtag.
What is up, Niner faithful? We don't have Adam with us again tonight. We have not been able to get the connection to happen this week as we are at the Senior Bowl. A lot of it's on me. I've been practices and everything, and then just kind of driving around Mobile, getting from place to place. But he's not able to make it, so I need you, as we've done each night. Give me a mic check. Make sure that you can hear me, that you can see me. I've trying a little something different tonight. I tried to move my computer about 4 feet closer to the hall, so I'm using my secondary monitor right now. You can see just the top of it. So it's a little bit different to try and get a little bit better of a Wi-Fi signal. I got a few megabytes per second better closer to the hall with the hotel Wi-Fi. So let me know in the chat if mic is good, you can hear me, volume is good. Those things are important. Usually Adam is my my sound check guy for that, and again, he's not here. So hit me up in the chat on that. Stream is good, audio and video are good. I have good to go. So we are recapping the day 3 of the Senior Bowl today. A good day. I mean, lots of good stuff. There was some of the players that I think are trending towards the top that did not participate today. Shamar Stewart being one of them. He left last night. Looked like he was just headed home. Mike Green was also a guy that went home last night. So he was not participating today either. But I think both of those kids, one, I don't blame them for checking out at the point they did. They have pretty much solidified themselves as a first round talent, and they didn't really have anything to gain going forward with another day and risking injury. Now, one kid that left, and we talked about this on the show last night, that left practice early yesterday and then didn't return was one Walter Nolan, like somebody that many people are projecting to go high first round, that would be towards the 49ers range. And obviously fitting a need of defensive tackle. He was there and practicing today. So that is good news if you are a Walter Nolan fan and want him with the 49ers. Now, I will say Walter Nolan has been very impressive here at the Senior Bowl, displaying the size, power, speed, and quickness that you would love from a premier defensive tackle. Here's the issue with Walter Nolan, is that the production in college hasn't necessarily matched up to those potentials, that you would be drafting this kid largely off of potential and largely off of the flash that you see. So, and the only reason I think the 49ers might not go that direction, it is a big need for them. They have been missing a premier interior presence ever since losing Armstead. And all last season, Hargrave was meant to be somebody to come in and do that and didn't really pan out. So there's a big gaping hole in the middle of the defense for a premier defensive player. I think that's what they did with Kinlaw. That's what they did with Solomon Thomas. These were kids who showed a huge athletic potential, who really was going to fit the middle, and neither of them worked out. And so we saw a shift in the 49ers draft strategy last season when they went with guys who had all started a lot of games, played a lot of games, and had the production in college. So, especially when it came to their early picks, guys like Ricky Pearsall and Renardo Green and Dominic Puni, those were all guys who had started and had good production in college. So their earlier round picks were definitely people who had proven they could do it in college. They played the position well. They played offensive line well. They played receiver well. They played corner well. So I'm not sure that even with all of the potential that is there in Walter Nolan, I don't know if the 49ers actually will pull the trigger at 11 with somebody that is looking like a raw talent. I just don't think they're going to go that direction. That's why for me, what I have seen this week, I would not be surprised if the 49ers go out and get Mike Green. He has played phenomenally well here at the Senior Bowl this week, has shown off everything that you've wanted to see. He played at Marshall and has just been displaying the speed, athleticism, power, gobs of power, run stopping ability, everything that you want to see, and doing it against these players at the Senior Bowl who are quality players. These, you were talking about, between these two pages of rosters, you're looking at probably a good chunk of the first 150 players taken in the draft. So this gives you a very much a good on good metric. And he absolutely destroyed Connerly, Josh Connerly from Oregon. He absolutely destroyed him with a power bull rush in one-on-ones yesterday. So to me, he also had 17 sacks this last season. So he's got the production that matches it. And I to me, after what I've seen this week, I would say if the 49ers don't trade back, Mike Green's your kid. That's who I think the 49ers are going to pick right now. We'll see how things change over the next couple months. I'm going to go and I'm going to watch a lot of tape on the kid. And the reason I also say that is because there's a lot of good quality talent at defensive tackle in this draft that you can get as you go down the draft board. There's going to be a lot. There's going to be a run on defensive players, I think, between the second and fourth rounds. There's going to be a massive run on defensive line players during that stretch where there's teams are going to get a lot of really good players. This is such a stacked defensive line class. Something really to watch out for. Hugo coming in with the Al Gabusin asks, any barbecue today? Absolutely. We had some barbecue. I am still full. I'm almost in a food coma. Hopefully, we've got to check in on Steph here in a little bit. That Steph Sanchez, she left from the barbecue joint we were at. We were at a place called the Meat Boss in Mobile, Alabama. If you are ever in Mobile, Alabama, you have got to check out the Meat Boss. They were on Triple D, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Guy Fieri was there. Wayne and I actually found that place 2 years ago, and Guy Fieri was there a year ago. So we found it before he did and went there, and we absolutely put down some phenomenal barbecue. If you don't know, the Southeastern United States, barbecue is a big deal. So when you find one of the best in this area, you will be hard pressed to find some better barbecue anywhere in the world. So we were able to go to a phenomenal barbecue place. We had some stuff that's called they call it rib candy. A lot of people call it rib crack. That's exactly what Wayne calls it. He's been looking forward to this for 2 years. What they do is they take the burn ends off of the ribs that they smoke and they cook it down in some brown sugar and honey and have it in a little cup, and it is unreal. Like everybody, we all had some. Everybody, when they take a bite, would just have to pause for a minute and just appreciate what was happening. So it was great. It was myself, Steph, Wayne, and Brad Graham. We all had a great time. Glad. I mean, let me just give a shout out to those three. They are phenomenal content creators. I mean, phenomenal. They do such a good job. They have such a good eye for what they're looking at. If you are not following them, you absolutely need to be following them. If somehow you're following my channel and not theirs, I don't know how that's possible, but you should be checking them out on their YouTube, on social media, X, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, everywhere. Follow these guys. They are so good, and great people as well. Just really good people. And they made the week much more enjoyable, and helped me get through it. Missing my family back home. So that was really good. But just looking at this week with the national team, Mike Green, I think, has really separated himself there to back up the production that you saw on the field at Marshall. But some other guys I think that also are available there that they could look at in the third, fourth rounds, as far as edge. Joshua Farmer from Florida State really, had some good reps. Darius Alexander out of Toledo had a really good day today. He'd been solid every day coming in. He was solid on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then today, with these other guys not being there, he really stood out. He was able to get some extra reps in there and just really stood out. Aeneas Peebles from Virginia Tech had another strong day. Jamari Caldwell had another strong day. He didn't finish the practice. It looked like they were in soft pads, so they weren't wearing any leg pads. They were just in gym shorts, and it looked like he took a helmet to the leg, to the thigh, and was limping pretty good. Looked like he'd gotten a pretty good bruise going on, contusion there in the leg. It didn't look like anything really serious, but he didn't finish practice. But up until that point, is again showing really good. And that's another reason I think that you can go with a Mike Green. You can pick up a kid like Jamari Caldwell, who I think will be a phenomenal run plugger. And he's going to bring an ability to push the pocket. I think a Cameron Jackson or a Deion Walker from the American team, that they're there, and that these kids can really hold up in the middle. So some good stuff there. David Walker from Central Arkansas was really strong today. Showed out. I have 3 pluses on my notes from him today. That means he won 3 reps by a good margin in the one-on-ones. So something to really look for him there. I think there's a couple there. This is also really stacked tight end class. If we look at Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green, Elijah Arroyo from Miami, Terrence Ferguson from Oregon, all 3 of those guys strong days today. They're doing good in the route running. They're showing decent run blocking and blocking everything. So D-line and tight end are some really strong groups going forward. And somebody to really watch. I think that the weakest class or weakest position group out of this class is the quarterbacks, and it's not close. Quarterbacks really have not been impressive here at the Senior Bowl. I had mentioned the kid from Canada, Elgersma, yesterday. I take back everything good I said about him yesterday. He had a rough day. He was missing some throws by a mile. But yeah, a good day there for the national team. Some kids that, man, they're talented. The last guy I cannot leave without mentioning him, Oluwafemi Oladejo. I've talked about him the last 2 days. Just continued to stack another really good day. Steph was able to talk to him last night. She put it on her X account. She talked to him last night, and he confirmed there that he has met twice with the 49ers. Now, that's notable because KJ Wright is his coach here at the Senior Bowl. So KJ Wright is coaching edge players and edge outside linebackers, and that's really kind of where he's projecting to be, that sort of Leonard Floyd size. And he really reminds you a lot of Leonard Floyd or Aldon Smith, like that sort of body type, of long arms, lean, twitchy, just that's the kind of player he reminds you of. And so he's got KJ Wright as his coach. Now it's not too notable excuse me, when the 49ers will meet with a player, be at the Senior Bowl because pretty much every player meets with every team. So getting a meeting with a team, if they say, yeah, I've met with, if you ask somebody, have you met with the 49ers? Yeah, I've met with them. That's really mostly a nothing burger because that's just part of the process. The fact that they had a second meeting with him is not normal. So that's why I get really excited about that. That shows they want to know more. They want more info on the kid. He hasn't played edge very much. And this is the part that's intriguing is that doesn't necessarily scare the 49ers. They're looking for guys who have experience playing football, not necessarily, if they've changed positions, that's okay. We saw that with Dominic Puni, right? He played tackle for a long time. They had no problem with him playing guard and center. Now I get it. It's different being an off-ball linebacker to becoming an edge player, but he's been doing that, and you can just tell this is a kid that's a sponge. He wants to soak up everything. I posted my interview with him that I had yesterday on my X account, and because I asked him, we could see him on the sideline. Like, Mike Tomlin is just totally into football. He wasn't a coach coaching the players, but he's just hanging out. Like, he's on the sideline where the players are, wanting to get into the team reps, and you could see Oladejo was standing right next to him, and he's constantly, talking over to him, and they're talking back and forth as they're both just, tons of energy. And I asked him, I said, what were you talking to Coach Tomlin about? And he's just like, oh, just picking his brain, man, trying to get wisdom, asking him about like who the best players he's coached were and stuff like that, and just trying to gain some wisdom from him. Like, this kid is a sponge. He wants to soak up every bit of football knowledge that he can get and understanding, and seems like he has a really good head on his shoulders. He's not lacking in any confidence. I posted it as well, this really interesting sequence. So he's going up against, it was Jonah Monheim, who Jonah Monheim is probably projecting as a top, probably around a third round pick, I think, right now with what he's showing at center. Somebody that Matt Mayoko just wrote earlier today that he could see the 49ers picking at center. And so he was going one-on-one. So he's rushing from the interior on Jonah Monheim, whoops the crap out of him. I mean, just beats him off the snap, that twitchy first step, boom, blows right by him. And the offensive guys, they're coming to the defense of Monheim. They're over there saying, he went early. And he hears him jawing. So he's turning around. They're jawing back and forth. And so he's saying, let's run it. You could hear him from the stands. Run it again. Let's reload it. Let's run it back. Run it back. And so he lines up against him again. And he says, I'm going to beat you again. And they run it again, beats him with the same move the very next rep. First step blows right past him. I mean, the confidence to do that and the ability that the guy knows you are going to do this and you still cannot stop them for a kid who's not a bad center. That was really impressive to me. So I think his value is flying up the boards right now. He probably was coming in as a very late round pick, and he's probably played so well here that he's moved himself into the mid rounds. This is a kid who just really, really impressive. I have fallen absolutely in love with this kid. If you were to say, who's your draft crush coming out of the Senior Bowl, I would say Oluwafemi Oladejo. That kid has been so impressive this week. So, good for him. A good, nice kid that is making himself a lot of money. So you like to see that. But that wrapped up the national team practice. There was a receive. No, that was in the American roster. I'm just looking over my notes from the American roster. So when I get to the American team, there's a couple receivers that I think are interesting. If I actually back it up, I want to back it up. Sorry, national roster. Jaden Higgins. I talked about him first day from Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. I really think this is somebody the 49ers are going to look at if he gets into that fourth round range. I don't know if he'll last that long. I don't know a lot about him. I'm going to be looking into him more coming out here because he's been so intriguing. Tons of size. He's like 6'2", 220 pounds. He reminds you body wise of Juwan Jennings, and with the 49ers at kind of a crossroads there with Juwan Jennings. Do you start paying him like a premier receiver as a third receiver, or do you let him walk? and you have Ricky Pearsall on the roster. You have Deebo Samuel under contract. You have Brandon Ayuk under contract. Just got the extension. What happens with Juwan Jennings? And where do you get that big-bodied receiver that they like? We had Kendrick Bourne, who was a big-bodied guy before we had Juwan Jennings, and now we have Juwan Jennings. How do you replace that? This kid, Jaden Higgins, fits that bill. He's Juwan Jennings with more speed. So that's why I think he's really fascinating. Thanks, Dre, he's coming in. Says my internet looks great tonight. It's because I moved. No joke. I literally just moved my laptop 4 feet closer to the door, and that I did it. I was running a speed test before I ran this tonight, and the 4 feet added increased the internet speed here at the hotel by 30%. And so I'm like, okay, so I've had to move wires and stuff. I almost knocked over my coffee and try and do so, but that's where it's at. But Jaden Higgins is a kid that I think is going to be really interesting. Xavier Restrepo is some intrigue there. I don't think the 49ers will go receiver deep early in this draft at all, just with what they have they've invested going forward, but somebody to look out for. Keeping it with receivers on the American roster, Jack Beck from TCU, man, he was impressive this week and continued that on today. He reminds you of a Deebo Samuel. He's got a very similar build, not a big upper body, but tree trunks for legs, and a solid kid. So, that's interesting because the 49ers like that kind of body type. Again, I don't know if he's, are they going to jump somebody to get him in the first 3 rounds? I don't think so. But if he's still there in the 4th, that's something to think about. Keep that in the back of your mind. Jack Beck. Now, I will say, is somebody I was looking at some safeties today. And a kid I talked about Tuesday night, Dan Jackson from Georgia, probably had the defensive play of the day on Jack Beck. It was an outstanding play. The one question I had during this week in watching Dan Jackson was, does he have the range? Because it looked like he had the run fits. It looked like he had the understanding of the defense. And from the mental side of the game, the question I was asking myself is, does he have the range to play safety? So they were doing some red zone, and they showed cover 2 pre-snap, and it was Riley Leonard from Notre Dame was playing quarterback, and he saw it and he checked. You could hear him check the play at the scrimmage, and what they did is they checked it to if you've watched my channel, it's going to be a Tony concept, which is a protection release fade paired with a quick out, and the idea is that's going to then put that corner in a high-low stretch, and it's meant to beat cover 2, because that fade, if that corner doesn't gain depth, that fade is really hard for that safety to get over from his too high position to the sideline and cover that route. So that's why you check to that play. They check to it. Fade comes in, the quick out happens, the corner jumped the quick out. So Riley Leonard threw the rail shot into the hole, the 2 hole, into the front corner of the end zone to beat that cover 2. And Dan Jackson saw it, flipped his hips, ran, and it looked like Beck was going to come down with it. He was right there. I mean, it was away from him. He turns, catches the ball, and right when he catches it, Dan Jackson separated that man from the ball. It was the biggest hit we had all week here at the Senior Bowl, and I don't mean separated the ball from the man. He separated the man from the ball. It was awesome. Just classic great football hit. But to show the range to cover and get to that hole shot on the cover 2 was, I said, okay, you have the range to play quarterback, to play safety in the NFL. That was what impressed me. So his stock, I've 4 marks on Dan Jackson from today. That means he had multiple wins in team and one-on-ones. Really like Dan Jackson now coming out of Georgia. And now another kid at safety that just was all over the field. I think these are going to be the 2 safeties that come out of this Senior Bowl. I could be wrong on that, but we're going to see. Billy Bowman Jr. out of Oklahoma had a phenomenal day. An absolutely phenomenal day. Was all over the field. He's a good communicator, was making sure he was communicating everything around. Now, he was more of the box safety. Dan Jackson was more of the free safety. They played on the field at the same time, but those two safeties were playing lights out today. So really excited about them. Going forward as some safeties to look at. The 49ers, if they don't re-sign Hufanga, look for them to address safety in the draft once again. I do not think that they're going to be comfortable with Jair Brown that going forward of that. And Dre, you're going to have to rewind the live to go hear what I said about Mike Green. I talked about him at the very beginning of the show, so you can head to it there after the live if you want to catch what I said about Mike Green, so that everybody who's been in here doesn't have to hear it twice. But love you, Dre. But yeah, Mike Green, love him. I think there's a lot there. Walter Nolan looked solid. I talked about him at the top too. Tim Smith out of Alabama. Now, I've been a little bit. Wayne was telling me today was really harsh on Alabama players this year, mainly because I got burned so bad by Cam Latu. I was a Cam Latu truther and just got hosed by that take. I may have had the Homer glasses on when talking about Cam Latu, and so I've been reticent to push Alabama players. Tim Smith, I watched his tape. It was okay. There's nothing really that jumped off, but I would say that Tim Smith has improved his draft stock here at the Senior Bowl. I think he's shown more than he showed necessarily on film, at least early in the season, the few games I watched of Alabama's coaches tape. So he was strong. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins from Georgia, another strong day, just solid player. And when I watched I was watching their game against Notre Dame last night, and man, kid lined up all over. His production numbers weren't that high in Georgia. Now there's some asterisks that need to go along with that, and this is why the film becomes so important with that. Is he won Georgia, their defensive line players, all of them, I don't think any of them got more than about 50% of the snaps, because they were definitely a D-line by committee. It was like every series, and sometimes in the middle of the series, they had full-on swaps of their entire defensive line. So they rotated their defensive line a lot. Now, two, they moved Ingram Dawkins everywhere on the line, everywhere. So it wasn't like he was just always in the play. Like, he played left end, he played right end, and they ran a lot of different defenses. They ran 5-2, they ran 6-1, they ran 3-4, they ran 4-3 under, they ran 3-3 odd. Like, they ran so many different fronts. It was like you didn't know if they were going to be a 3-4 team or a 4-3 team at any time. And so he played some 5 technique and 4 technique, 4-eye. He played 9 technique as a wide 9. He played 7 technique as a normal defensive end. He played 1 technique as a nose guard. He played 0 technique as a nose tackle. He played 3 technique as a defensive tackle. And he played these on either side of the line. So in just one game, I saw him line up, I think it was in 9 different spots on the defensive line. I mean, that's moving around. So he's got incredible flexibility. He's really polished in a lot of ways. He doesn't have quite the physical upsides of, he's not blowing guys off the ball with this massive power and twitch first step. But I think he would be a really solid. He reminds you kind of like a Kevin Givens. That's what I see going forward, is that this gives you the opportunity for a younger possible upgrade over your Kevin Givens. I'm not looking at him as a starter, but I think it's a way to infuse more youth into that defensive line rotation. So I mean, his technique is just like really solid there. Cameron Jackson, again, just showed to be from Florida, massive human being, 6'6", 342 pounds, just plugging up everything in the middle. So really, again, there are options for quality, good players here in these middle rounds that are going to be some solid, productive players. A lot of it's going to come down to how are they used, how do they develop. Kyle Kennard from South Carolina, he represented himself really well today. Jared Ivey had another good practice, solid practice. A kid from Ole Miss, Siobhan Jones from LSU, another solid day. So, I mean, these are all defensive ends, edge guys that all played well and just really represented themselves well. As far as some tight ends, Jake Briningstool from Clemson, I thought played really well today. The question I have from him, because he has a huge catch radius, soft hands. Was can he block? And so if we all remember back, not to bring up old wounds, but Brock Purdy's elbow injury in the 2022 NFC Championship game, we pulled the tight end across to block on a play action pass, and the tight end got whooped and Brock got hurt. They ran that same play here at the Senior Bowl. They pulled Briningstool across to pick up the defensive end on a play action, a fake, and he held up. He not only just held up, he won the pass rush block rep, and I believe it was against Jared Ivey, if I remember it right. So it was a quality defensive end. He won that rep. The quarterback was able to get the ball off. He didn't hit the pass because it wasn't accurate, but that's another rep that shows you, okay, this kid has what you want to see going forward. Does he land in an area where the 49ers need that second tight end? That has been a big hole to fill. And so Briningstool out of Clemson is a kid that I think they're going to look at. CJ Dupree from Alabama. I know. I talked up Cam Latu, tight end out of Alabama, but I have been reserved on Dupree because of the Cam Latu situation. I am not the only one that has been high on Dupree coming out this year. Wayne was been really high on him. Steph's high on him. Brad liked what he saw as well. So, this is not just me. Dupree, he shows a lot of good things because he's a blocker. He can block. So that's there. Thomas Fidone from Nebraska, also another solid tight end that played really well today. I have him circled and a couple stars there. That tells me that he had several winning moments today. As far as offensive line, Emory Jones, tackle from LSU, showed out another strong day. I think he continues to move up. Willie Lampkin from North Carolina, an interior offensive lineman, a guard. He wasn't super impressive the first day, but these last couple days has really been coming along and winning more and more reps each day, and running more and more reps as the games went. So Willie Lampkin, or practices went. So Willie Lampkin, I think, is somebody that they're going to look out for in those mid rounds. There's a lot of guys in these mid rounds I like. That they're now the star of the offensive line for me. Somebody that has really showed out is Jackson Slater from Sac State. I mean, just continued to every day put together a strong performance, which reminds me, Gray Zabel. I think Gray Zabel has moved himself from the national team. I think he's moved himself out of range for the 49ers to pick him. He's a guard, probably going to play center at the end in the NFL. Phenomenal. I mean, just been unreal this week, and we've all just sat there and gone, "Geez, he's a brick wall every time." They would get into reps. He's a kid from a small school, North Dakota State, and was probably a 4th round projection coming into the Senior Bowl, and has probably moved himself up. There's some buzz from NFL insiders at the Senior Bowl that he has probably moved himself up into the 1st round because his Senior Bowl has been that strong. So, I would have loved to have that kid. I think the next best option is Jackson Slater. He has played so well today. He's a little bit smaller than Gray Zabel, but has played almost as well. And I'm a little surprised there isn't quite as much buzz. There is a good amount of buzz over Jackson Slater, just not quite as much. Now, another kid that's played really well, tackle at LSU, Miles Frazier. The LSU tackles played really well this week, and so they've been two of the brighter spots at tackle. Like Jonas Savailanea from Arizona, he struggled this week. A lot of wins from defensive ends came against Jonah, but Miles Frazier from LSU, real strong, big guy, can move, good in the run blocking, a lot of good things there. So really liked Miles Frazier there. Running back out of SMU, Brashard Smith. Now the 49ers are interesting. It's interesting because it's going to be, we're wondering how are they going to replace maybe, Jordan Mason or Elijah Mitchell. I don't think one of those guys is not coming back. Most likely two of them are not coming back. So how do the 49ers add some depth there at running back? I think Brashard Smith is somebody to look for from SMU. He is a great receiving running back, and that is a huge deal for the 49ers. That was a big part of why they selected Isaac Garendo, but Brashard Smith, I think, is somebody to watch. Trevor Etienne from Georgia, I don't, he's going to be out of range of the 49ers. He's going to be a high draft pick. But with talking about Trevor Etienne, I'll move to some linebackers because he lined up against Jack Kaiser on a couple reps, and Jack Kaiser played him pretty well. And so that's something to look at. Linebacker from Notre Dame. He may be out of the range of where the 49ers are looking at. It depends again on what happens over the next month. Do they re-sign Dre Greenlaw? Jack Kaiser's a kid to think about. Jalen McLeod from Auburn, I think, really played himself out of a couple draft spots in today. He showed himself to be a massive liability in coverage. But going back to the American team, a kid that I had several stars next to, that I'm just remembering now, Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon. Really like this kid as a linebacker. Fast, violent, good communicator. You could tell he's one of the leaders on the defensive side, sees it, hits it, smart kid. So, he really gave you shades of Dre Greenlaw, D Winters with the speed and everything that he did. So, I think this is a deep draft class. The deepest positions are obviously defensive line. Tight end is really deep. Two areas the 49ers really need to address. And then I think there's some really quality kids going forward. Now, the question with these running backs is, and why I always usually wait on them, is I wait till after the combine and the pro days, because Kyle Shanahan has that 4-4 floor. Like, he doesn't pick a running back that doesn't run a 4-4. So you have to always see what do these kids run before you can be certain where they're going to go with running back. But that's pretty much wraps up the Senior Bowl for us. As I've been able to be down here again. Thank you to every member of JFA 49 and all those with the super chats and the tips in the tip jar and on PayPal and everything that have really contributed and been generous with that to help cover this trip down here and provide for these lodgings I have that you see behind me. And to be here at the Senior Bowl, I can't stress enough, being this my third year at the Senior Bowl, that this is truly the premier evaluation event for the draft. When they say the draft starts in Mobile, they're not just meaning, teams are on the clock, or it's the last event before the draft, that really the last football game that you're going to see these kids play before the draft. It really is the premier evaluation point. There are so many teams here, so many executives here, personnel guys here. You are getting good on good. The quality of evaluation here is so high, because if somebody proves they can do it here, it's highly unlikely that you're looking at somebody who just proved it against weak talent, or it was just a fluke. This is good on good. If you can win here, you can play in the NFL. And these practices show everybody a ton. How the kids are in the meeting room show everybody a ton. And these practices are so valuable. I mean, you can tell, because day 3 of practice, there's about 60% of the personnel people that there was days 1 and 2 of practice. And by the time the game kicks off, almost none of these teams have their personnel people still here. So these practices are where they're looking and where they are focusing on and what they're watching every day. They're looking into these practices because what happens with the one-on-ones in these practices, what happens in the team periods of these practices, means so much to uh, what they're trying to do as far as evaluation, and there is no better place to get quality evaluation of these players than here at the Senior Bowl. So thank you for everybody who's allowed me to be here. Thank you so much to my wife who has taken care of the kids and is there and allowed me to be down here and do this. This has been a phenomenal event and got to hang out with some really great people this week and sit on those really uncomfortable metal bleachers. But it's a great day, and I was thankful that we didn't have as much sun today. It was overcast all day, so as you can see, my nose got a little burnt from the last 2 days. But appreciate everybody. We will be coming at you next week, also in 20 minutes. In just 20 minutes, I'm going to be going live with Rob Guerrera on his channel. And so be looking out for that. It is with the Gold Standard podcast. Or 49ers Network podcast. We're going live there. I'm going to be talking and breaking down some Robert Saleh stuff. So I've got some Jets film that I'm going to be working through and showing there on that show with Rob. I've never gone on with Rob before, so I'm excited about it. It's going to be a good show. We're going to have a fun time there, and my internet is working better. So that's always a good thing. So appreciate everybody. But that will be starting here at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. So but until then, or next time you see me, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Niners.